Everyone is talking about inequality, money, wealth, opportunity, but something is changing, and the real divide is no longer where most people are looking because a new type of inequality is emerging, and it has nothing to do with how much money you have. It has to do with how you think. I'm Eli Lamin, and here we explore the AI economy, not through hype, not through fear, but through what is actually changing. And today I want to explore something that might become one of the most important forces shaping the future, a new type of inequality, not based on capital, not based on access, but based on something more subtle: how people use AI to think. Because while everyone is focusing on who has access to AI, the real difference is starting to appear somewhere else in how people interact with it. At first, it looks like equality. AI is available to everyone. You can open it, ask questions, get answers, use it for work, use it, for learning, use it for decisions. It feels like a leveling force, like everyone suddenly has access to intelligence. And in a way, that's true. But access is not the same as advantage. You see, two people can use the exact same system, ask similar questions, spend the same amount of time, and yet end up in completely different places. Not because of the tool, but because of how they use it. You see, some people engage, they ask deeper questions, they challenge answers, they refine their thinking, they use AI as a way to expand their reasoning. Others use it differently. They ask, they receive, they move on, they accept what they see. They reduce effort, they reduce friction. At first, the difference is small, almost invisible. Both are using AI, both are getting results, but over time the difference compounds. One group becomes more precise, more analytical, more independent. They start seeing patterns, understand systems, making better decisions. The other group becomes more dependent, more passive, more reactive. They rely on outputs, but don't develop deeper understanding. This is where the gap begins, not in access, in usage. This is what we can call a cognitive leverage: the ability to use AI to amplify your thinking, to go further, to see more, to understand better. Some people develop that leverage, others don't. And that creates a divide that is not immediately visible, but becomes clear over time. Because decisions start to differ. One group makes decisions based on deeper understandings, the other based on surface level outputs. And decisions drive outcomes. So over time, the difference grows. Now, let's step back. This is not just about individuals. Imagine if millions of people fall into one group and millions into the other, this becomes structural. A new type of inequality emerges, not rich versus poor, but high cognitive leverage versus low cognitive leverage. Now, let's go deeper. Why does this happen? Because AI changes the cost of thinking. What used to take time and effort now becomes easier. But that does not mean everyone uses the opportunity fully. Some people use it to go deeper, others, use it to go faster. And those are not the same thing. You see, going deeper builds understanding. Going faster builds depth. Without basically depth, builds dependency. And over time, depth wins. Now, let's connect this to the economy. The economy is built on decisions. Every investment, every purchase, every strategy, all driven by how people think. If one group makes better decisions constantly, they gain an advantage. They allocate resources better, they identify opportunities earlier, they adapt faster, and that advantage compounds, not in a dramatic way, but steadily over time. This creates divergence, not because one group started with more, but because one group thinks differently. Now, consider work. In many roles, the value is not execution, it's judgment, the ability to decide, to prioritize, to navigate uncertainty. AI can assist with execution, as we know, but judgment still depends on the human. So people who develop stronger thinking become more valuable, not because they work harder, but because they decide better. Now, consider learning. Some people use AI to explore, to question, to understand deeply. Others use it to get quick answers, to complete tasks, to move on. Over time, the first group builds knowledge structure, basically, knowledge structure. The second accumulates fragments. Again, the gap grows. Now, consider behavior. People with higher cognitive leverage become more autonomous. They don't rely as much on external opinions. They evaluate, they decide, they act. People with lower cognitive leverage remain more dependent. They follow, they react, they adapt slower. And this affects everything: career paths, opportunities, outcomes. Now, here is something important. This is not about intelligence. It's about about being not it's not even about being smarter actually. It's about interaction. How you use the system, what questions you ask, how you engage. Small difference obviously, repeated over time, create large outcomes. Now, let's step back again, once again. This is why this inequality is different. It is not visible at first, as you can see. It does not appear in statistics immediately. It builds quietly through daily behavior, through small decisions, and then suddenly it becomes obvious. Some people move faster, understand better, adapt quicker, while others struggle. Not because they lack access, but because they lack leverage. Now, think about the future. If this continues, the gap widens, not just economically, but cognitively. A difference in how people process reality. And that difference shapes everything else. So the real question is not who has AI, because almost everyone does. The real question is who knows how to use it to think, because that is where the advantage is. That is where the divide is forming, and that is what will shape the next economy. So, we are not just entering a new technological era. We are entering a system where thinking itself becomes a source of advantage, where the ability to use AI to reason, to explore, to understand becomes one of the most valuable assets. And the biggest divide will not be money. It will be how people think. So if you want to understand inequality in the future, don't just look at wealth. Look at cognitive leverage, because that is where the real gap is forming. If this got you thinking, please drop a comment. I read everything. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.